Welcome to The Nation. I'm NADIAH LATIF. Today we're joined with KOOT CHIEW LING, Tune Protect's Chief Strategy Officer and Chairman of the Sustainability Committee, a leader at the forefront of transforming how the insurance sector adapts to a changing world. As industries move beyond responsible growth, climate-conscious practices and digital-first solution, the question is, how can insurance evolve to protect not just people, but the planet and future generations? Welcome to the studio.
Thank you for having me, NADIAH.
Now, sustainability has become an integral part of your business. So how does Tune Protect define what sustainability means for the organization, and how have you embedded it into the overall strategy?
Okay. First of all, thank you for having me, and thanks for the question. So sustainability for Tune Protect actually started many years back, I think as far back as 2016 or 2017. When we started off, we are a listed company, a public listed company, so we were abiding by BERSA, so sustainability was an integral part of our business. But it has evolved, right, to today where we are. You know, we have gone much further than from a perspective of just being very compliance driven. So how does it comes into the business? As we said, we look at a couple of areas. Governance itself. Governance is something very important to us. The business itself, and of course the social part of it, which is the people, the community that we do business in. And all this, we boil it down to, for instance, governance itself. Governance in a lot of our practices, in a lot of what we do, whether it's our policies, our procedures, these are all very embedded into our day-to-day. So governance could be things of, most importantly in terms of integrity of what we do, how we run our business, so that the stakeholders around us have that confidence, you know, to do business with us. We have what we call anti-bribery as well as anti-corruption practices that we put down in, and it's a tone from the top, right? So it's down in policies that we have that. In business itself, in the products and services that we sell out there, these are also what we call the sustainability elements are embedded, and I can go on this, right? And of course, the community, which is so important to us. What we do today must reflect the good of the sustainability practices that we have, so that it goes back to the community and the people that we interact with. Yeah.
Wonderful. I mean, when we're talking about moving from compliance to actually embedding that as part of not only business as usual, but how the organization foresees itself in its growth, I think that's definitely what we want to see in a lot of companies, instead of perhaps just making big, large claims on what sustainability is, but not really embedding it down.
Correct,
so it's lovely to hear that, you know, Tune Protect is really looking at governance and business processes and, of course, social impact. Now, talking about governance, you mentioned governance. We know that in most cases, governance is the backbone of that organization. So in what key ways has the governance piece of sustainability for Tune Protect really uphold that? You said ethical and transparent operations. You mentioned earlier about anti-bribery and corruption, but could you expand on that a little more?
Sure. So governance is actually very broad, right? Governance can span from board diversity to people and culture, you know, to best practices. Okay, so you mentioned about the ethical, corruption, anti-bribery and all. So what we have today, as it is, we already have a policy on anti-bribery. We have an integrity team that looks at how the organization puts in place all these anti-bribery, anti-corruption best practices, which is documented, so people know, right? A new member comes into the organization. First thing first, as part of the training process, they have this training that they know they must abide to the policy itself. And we don't just put it in a policy. We also ensure, like every year, every staff have to take a training course, which comes with exams, right? So you have to actually fill in all the questions, and it's actually quite a fun course. It's not your, you know, plain paper course. It actually goes through modules of interacting, explaining what you need to do, and then the questions comes. So everyone goes through that process. I must say, the company has progressed quite a lot. So we are quite a good culture when it comes to anti-corruption, anti-bribery, and we are a financial institution. That is the core of the, you know, what we do, right? Yeah.
Definitely, and I think what happens is when you have training, we've seen this for many companies, you have the policy, but the policy is never sort of embedded into culture. It's never breathed into how you do things.
And people don't really like reading so much of policy, correct? Yeah.
And so I've heard a lot of companies now looking at gamifying how they actually embed from that policy into doing things in real life. So as a digital-first insurer, how does Tune Protect ensure that you've got comprehensive data governance? You're keeping so much data from everywhere in terms of cybersecurity, protection, not only your businesses but also your customers.
You read in the news every day there's a cybersecurity breach, there's a data breach, and it is something that every company should worry. That's probably something like, if you can't sleep at night, that's probably one of the things that worries you, right? So for us, and I think for many companies, we can never say we are 100% sure that we will never breach anti-bribery for that matter, or we will not anti-bribery. What I'm talking, we will not breach data protection and cybersecurity issue. But what we can do is really to prevent that, right? So today in place, and this is something that continues to improve as threats get more. Then there's new technology or new software out there. We try to improve. But today, as far as RMIT, which is by the Bank Negara. So you actually need to manage your technology risk. So by RMIT standards, as well as when it comes to what is that? Data protection, PDPA, right? PDPA itself, we abide by all these. These are very standard requirements by regulators as well as the government. We abide by that. Within our organization itself, we also have a data protection software and also a tool that prevents prevents any leakages of data, and it triggers whenever there's any expectation or any unusual activities. So these are tools that we put in place today. And it continues, right? And again, to the organization itself, is that we keep progressing. Wherever there is any threat that we see out there, any new tools out there, we need to keep improving. Yeah. So these are areas that we put in place.
Definitely
today.
A huge challenge, because everything that you do today, you're going to have to see updates.
Correct.
Improvements on the things that you're being done. Because just yesterday I was listening to the ASEAN ICT Forum, and they were talking about the fact that we cannot be using analog solutions in a digital world. Now, I want to talk to you more about business innovating with purpose, but we're going to go for a quick break, and when we come back, we'll be talking to KOOT LING more on Tune Protect sustainability efforts. Stay tuned. You're watching The Nation on Bernama, and I'm speaking to Ms. KOOT LING, Chief Strategy Officer and Chairman of the Sustainability Committee of Tune Protect. So LING, earlier we were talking about governance, and such a huge topic, especially when we're talking about personal data protection. Now I want to move to innovating with purpose. You spoke passionately about how sustainability is guiding how Tune Protect's managing and projecting its business. Could you share a little bit more?
I think this is a topic that I'm probably most passionate about. Yeah, the business itself and how sustainability guides that. And maybe I could just take a step back. When we started this whole journey, and even today, we are still, trying to do better, trying to bring more and more people on board. Because again, sustainability is not a one-man show. And when we started, it really was a one-man show, right? But sustainability encompasses the whole organization. And why do I say that? Because, how do I embed sustainability into the business if it's a one-man show? It has to be throughout, And insurance, we are about the product development team, the underwriting team, the risk management team, the actuarial team, the finance team. So it's really a whole journey that everyone has to go together. So how do we embed that in our business itself? Today, what we have is that we have a couple of areas that I could go through. Okay, one, business itself is really being the products itself, the services, what we give out there to the community, right? And you'll see that sustainability, what do we talk about? Insurance, general insurance, we do a lot of motor insurance, car insurance. So products itself, we actually try to be innovative. We have products that, for car insurance, we call it pay as you drive. So if you don't drive, you pay less. Or if you drive less, you pay less. So you pay as you drive, and how it works is that many a time there are people who own a couple of cars, right? One car, probably their main car. Second car, maybe the car to drive to the market or to drive to the LRT station. And if you don't drive so much, we believe that we have to give it back to you, and we should encourage you not not to drive as much as well. So that's what we call pay as you drive, and that's a form of sustainability because you drive less, the carbon emission is lesser. So that's one of the sustainability where products is concerned.
So you're trying to actually inculcate positive behaviors of the customer by creating products that are modular. Just now we saw on screen it says PAYD, pay as you drive.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Continue.
Yes, and pay as you drive actually brings the customer on board the journey together with us, because many a times you can't do it by yourself, and you do it as an organization. You keep thinking, how do I bring my customer to me? And that's one way, right? They get the product that actually helps them save and helps them contribute to the better of sustainability. So that's from a product perspective. Of course, when it comes to the business itself, there's also in terms of our investments. So our investments, we have zero investments in coal where direct investments are concerned. So we took a very conscious decision to exit any investment that deals with coal. So that has happened. That's direct investments, right? Even in underwriting itself, underwriting in insurance is actually the type of business that you take. So in the past, we used to take business that was directly or indirectly related to coal. Today is zero. So these are also very conscious decisions that, drive our business, where we said if we believe in zero coal, we must start and we must end somewhere. So today we are zero coal. And our next journey really is in terms of net zero carbon emission towards 2050. Of course, 2050, it's some ways to go, but the process starts now, the journey starts now, and we keep having to step up in terms of reaching that 2050 goal. Yeah.
Now, I want to touch about customer experience as a major part of CHIEW Protect, and this also is very much embedded into the sustainability effort that you have. Now, you also have a program called Cashless Hospital
Admissions.
Yes.
Now,
can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Okay, so customer experience, maybe first thing first. Customer experience, we measure by what we call Net Promoter Score.
Yes.
So customer Net Promoter Score. And today our Net Promoter Score is at 41%, which is actually, 41. Yeah, 41, which is actually very good from an industry perspective, right? General insurance industry perspective. And back to your question about cashless hospital admission. Yes. So and this is very much to do with when you travel, because when you travel, it could be anywhere in this globe, right, or in this world, you don't want to have to fill up forms. You don't have that kind of access to paper so easily. You need it to be fast. So if you, touch wood, were to fall sick when you are overseas, you just go to the hospitals that is on our whole panel list, right? And you just get admitted, and it's cashless. You don't pay any money, and you don't really need to fill in any paperwork, right? So that also helps our whole agenda of being digital. And being digital is no paper, that's for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah, correct. So,
and I've had first-hand experience looking at aged travelers in the work that I do, in them traveling to a different country and then needing hospitalization and realizing that they don't have the right insurance cover, they don't speak the language that is being spoken in that country, they need emergency medical services. To your point, when you are traveling, the last thing you want to do is be filling forms, especially if there's an emergency. So I think that is definitely something that's important. You've got this thing called One Claim Harmonization Plan as well.
Oh, yes.
How does that work then?
Yes, so one claim, as it simply means one, right? So you just have the same single process, and claim meaning that if you need to make a claim, it's the same process regardless where you are. So if you are in Hong Kong, you're in Indonesia, you're in Malaysia, you could be as far as in Saudi Arabia, the whole process is the same. We don't want to complicate matters, like you having to go through a different process than me over here, right? So that's what we mean by one claim. Ultimately, is that whole customer experience that we were talking about.
Yes.
We want the journey to be very, want customers to be happy customers at the end of the day. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, we've spoken about governance, we've spoken about strategy, we've spoken about customer experience. I want to touch about environment. Now, we spoke about tree planting earlier and saplings and hydroponics. So, environmental sustainability is definitely a global concern. We know that COP is going on right now with a lot of debate. What's CHIEW Protect's aim as far as the environmental pillar is concerned?
Okay, so I think from the environmental pillar, there's a couple of areas that we look at. First thing first, we are under Bank Negara as our supervisory regulators, right? And it has become increasingly important, especially in the last few years, last 2 years at least, where I shift from environment to climate first, where climate change or climate risk is an important factor that all insurance companies need to look at, including ourselves. Particularly for our part of the world, it would be flood, right?
Yes.
So flood-related risk. So from a business perspective, we really do what we call stress testing. We need to know what if a flood happens like 1 in 100 years or 1 in 20 years, you know, what will happen to our business? What will happen to the people? Do we have the right products for customers? You know, flood is always, you worry about your house, you worry about your car. So from that perspective, we have already done what we call climate-related stress testing, which is what the bank wants. And with this kind of data, it's not just paperwork, right? It's not just, you know, putting in and filling up a form and, okay, I've done that. Now with this data, what do we do for the better of the end of the customers, end customers? So this is where, you know, we start talking about how do we embed flood cover, you know, for your vehicle or for your house, you know, things from that perspective, right? So that's from a business perspective. But for the community, we do a lot, and this is a lot to do with what we call CSR, but we call it corporate good over in CHIEW Protect. We have a 6,000 hours corporate good target over 3 years for our organization. And you know, with many organizations, when it comes to corporate good, maybe just a handful of people go out and work to contribute, and that's it. But that's not what we want. We want it to be everybody turun padang, everybody have to play that part. So it's 5 hours per employee. So we do a lot of, as you mentioned earlier, environment-related things. We do tree planting. We plant quite a bit in the mangroves because in the mangroves, the carbon emission or the amount of CO2 is actually more that we can actually save back on.
So these are your staff doing their...
It's probably the first time for many of them going down to the mangroves as well. Many of them probably have not seen mangroves before.
And it's beautiful, isn't it?
Yes,
I think in Malaysia,
it's for a good purpose.
Yes. And in Malaysia, actually, one of the native species is Rhizophoron mucronata, and we do a lot of mangrove replanting. And one thing that you mentioned earlier was the fact that you don't just plant, you actually measure the mortality rates, which is fantastic because a lot of companies just plant and then 100% of them die.
Whatever we do, we measure, we report, we disclose, and we see how we can do better.
And how does this integrate into the climate risk of your business, your future business strategy?
So where we are coming from is that whatever that we do must be in relation back to the business. So if we were to, this is part of the what we call the community social aspect work. And as I mentioned earlier, we have the business aspect of it and of course the governance. So it all just goes back and relate back to like, okay, climate risk is something is on our agenda that we measure, even in the organization itself. Today, climate risk is something that is reported every quarter to the board. So it is, if I can put it in my own words, it's one of those emerging risks that we must continue to monitor very closely.
And I think it's impressive that you've actually narrowed down on natural disasters because it's not something that a lot of people talk about. Now we're going to go for a quick break again. When we come back, I'd like to talk to you about people and community. So stay tuned.
Sure.
You're watching The Nation on Bernama, and we're talking to CHIEW LING, Chief Strategy Officer of Tune Protect. Now, earlier we were talking about sustainability and climate risk. I love the fact that you mentioned climate risk instead of just environment, instead of narrows down to exactly what we're trying to tackle here. Now, let's talk about people and community. We've seen what you've done in the vignette earlier on the types of projects that you've done and the number of hours that has been contributed by the group for social good. But what about promoting diversity, equity and inclusion? Could you share a little bit about that?
Okay, so diversity, inclusion, equity, that's something we hold very true to our heart as well. Today in our organization, I think close to 60% are females, right? So we have a very good representation of female at work. We are also a member of the 30% Club. The 30% Club promotes board diversity, female representation, and we are also a pretty active member there as well. In terms of activities for the employees, in terms of community and people, we run a lot of programs that is very relevant today. So we have mental health clinics for the employees, wellness programs. We run team buildings across all levels, across all departments as well. So there's no picking and choosing as well. And also in terms of reward and recognition, there's also the employees that fall under what we call top talents. So we also look at the top talents and see how we can really further enhance their performance or give them more trainings to improve them, because they are going to be the future of the company. So we do have this kind of programs for our employees, yes.
And it's wonderful to see that Tune Protect has received several recognitions in terms of sustainability accolades, and congratulations on that. But what do these achievements mean for the organization?
Yeah. So it is quite heartening, because some of these achievements are achievements that we have been winning year after year, and these are achievements that come to us because we are recognized based on what we contribute to society, what we put in our annual report, what we disclose, what we are transparent with. One such achievement that we have constantly been getting is by the MSWG, right, the Minority Watch Group, and that's in terms of corporate governance, right, and then in terms of sustainability disclosure. So that's something that we are quite proud of. I think the award...
And that's an important one.
Yes, correct. I think in a ranking of over 800 or 900 PLCs, we are like number 38, and to us, being a very small outfit, that's something we are very proud of. We are also on what is known as Bursa Index FTSE for Good, right? So that's an index that Bursa looks at in terms of companies that are doing well in terms of their sustainability front for investors to look at, right?
Definitely.
Yes, and we are at 3.9 on the index, and that we got into the index, I think, in 2021, and when we first got in, we were like 3.2, if I'm not mistaken, and we always worried that we'll drop out of the index. But we continue inching upwards and upwards, and we're very proud to say that we're the only general insurance company that is on the index, a public listed company that is on the index today. So that's an achievement to the team. It is a small team, but it is something that we're proud of. And what does it mean by all this, right?
Yeah.
We want the assurance to the community, to our stakeholders, that sustainability is important to us, is embedded in everything that we do, and they can feel comfortable, whether they are our regulators, whether they are our customers, they can be comfortable that this is an organization that has sustainability at its heart. Yeah.
Wonderful. And I think it's clear that sustainability is not just sort of a slogan in your organization, it's definitely something that is being embedded into the organization. Yes. Fortunately, that's all the time that we have today. Now, as the insurance landscape continues to evolve, one of the things that remain essential is choosing solutions that are responsible, resilient and built for the future. So sustainability isn't just a framework, it's a foundation for smarter protection, stronger communities and a safer tomorrow. To know more, log on to www.tuneprotect.com. I'm NADIAH LATIF. Thank you for watching, and when you travel, be sure to travel with Tune Protect, your trusted choice. Stay tuned.